Okay, so all you have to do is Google. You guys know how to do that? Conservative authors, liberal authors. You want to read something from the right? Google conservative authors. You want to read something from the left? The liberal authors. Okay, you want something that's going to be biased, because you're going to be writing about their bias, the quality of their work, what kind of research, what kind of value does it have? Is it actually trying to convince people to think a certain way, or is it just red meat for those who already know or feel how they think, right? Just reinforcing their simple-minded views, okay? Now, I can throw some names at you. I mean, our library's gotten, look, just being honest, conservative books sell better than liberal books. That's why there's a lot more conservative authors that you'll find than liberal authors. It's like talk radio. Can you turn on AM radio and listen to liberal talk shows? No, because there are none. You think people have tried it? Yes, they have, and they failed. Okay, why is conservative talk radio, why does it do so well? That's pretty simple. Because most other major news outlets are liberal. So people flock to the radio to hear the other side. Right? Okay, so I could say some funny stuff, but I won't. So if you're very confident in your views, you want to read something maybe from the opposite of what you think, maybe to challenge yourself. Okay, it might be a frustrating read for you. You know what I mean? Okay, but you'll have more to write about if you're reading something you disagree with. Now, you could read somebody you agree with, like if you're a conservative, if you read Ann Coulter, okay? And you guys know who Ann Coulter is? Brianna? Wake up. Then why did I just wake you from a stupor?
You asked who this Ann girl was.
Ann Coulter. Yeah. Yes. Okay. But she has like no filter. She's about the most politically incorrect person you would ever read. She doesn't care. You know what I mean? So even if you agree with her, you would definitely be able to write about her style. You know what I mean? And just how offensive she is. Okay. So people like Ann Coulter, we've got her books in the library. They haven't burned them yet. Mark Levin, who's a talk radio guy, he's got numerous best-selling books. So if you go to Books A Million or whatever that thing is, Bookaholic guy. Yeah, just go. I think they're in the South. They have Books A Million, but yeah. So you can find political aisle and look for something that looks interesting. Some of you guys know who Ben Shapiro is. Some of you guys know who Dinesh D'Souza is. Yeah, he's got some books. Yeah.
Does it have to be someone like really extreme? Like we have Ben Carson's book. Is that?
Yeah, he's pretty conservative.
Yeah.
He's not extreme, but he's conservative. His values are. Yeah.
Like that's okay.
Now, a biography on Carson, maybe not so much, but something. Yeah. What's he writing about? Yeah, that'd be
That's
fun.
good. Okay.
Yeah. You know Ben Carson? He's an extraordinary human being.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember when he was running.
Yeah. I love Ben Carson.
I'm doing one that someone did last semester, but it's not like it's the How Liberals and Conservatives Think by George Lacroix or something, and it just kind of like breaks down that, and then at the end he gives like his opinions, but he like tries to do like the whole thing like.
See if he does. Does he pull that off? Do you think he does a good job being unbiased? Because some people think that they know how conservatives think, you know what I mean? But they're not conservative, so they don't really understand conservatives, you know what I mean? So you can write about that, whether you think that person actually gets to the reality rather than his perception of conservatives and liberals. You know what I mean? So yeah, you'll have stuff to write about that for sure. Liberal authors, some of the more best-selling liberal authors would be people like James Carville, who was a campaign manager from Bill Clinton's era, and he's a Cajun coon ass, and he's pretty funny. He's got some books out. Al Franken, I don't know if you ever heard of Al Franken. He used to be a cast member on Saturday Night Live, like a comedian, and then he ran for the Senate in Minnesota and was elected twice. And then he got caught in the Me Too movement. He had some behaviors with women that he shouldn't have had, and he resigned from the Senate. Okay, but he wrote a book like Rush Limbaugh's a Big Fat Idiot. Okay, and that was a pretty big selling one. So yeah, just find something that looks relatively interesting. Controversial's good. I mean, doesn't have to be. But I don't want you to read a moderate. I don't want a moderate. I want somebody from one side of the spectrum or the other. Okay? Good? All right. I can post a list of authors on the canvas for you. Okay, and you can choose from there if you want, or you can go outside of that. A lot of kids have read this book called What's the Matter with Kansas? Okay? And basically the author, speaking of not understanding Kansans, he used to be one, and then he moved, and then he really talks down to the people of Kansas and say that, these people vote against their own best interest by voting for Republicans. Okay, so it's kind of a snooty, I'm smarter than you. You Kansans are stupid for voting Republican. Okay, basically. So, I mean, that's a pretty famous book, especially in the state of Kansas. Okay. And he's got other books as well. I think his name's George Lakoff, I believe is his name.
That's the dude who wrote my book.
He wrote your book? Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I've had reviews of that book, yes. So, anyhow, all right, so we're moving on to section 3, political parties. All right, this is a shorter one, for sure, okay? They're all shorter from now on.
Yay.
All right. Now, as far as your tests go, I do have some people that have yet to take the test, so I don't want to talk about the test. Because I have people that haven't taken the test. Okay? But I can tell you how many you missed on the first 32. That doesn't include short answer or medium answer if you want to know.
We already know. I do.
Sure, shoot.
I do.
Or you may not want to know.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you're first. And you may not want to know. First, how many missed out of 32? You want to know?
24.
You want me to say it?
Yeah.
Really?
Clearly, you don't want to say it.
18.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's a freaking bloodbath over here. Aaron, 0.
Wow, what a flex.
Garrison, 9. Irvin's gone. Ella, 5. Not bad. Cameron, 0. Amanda,
Yeah, tell me. It's
5.
bad. 5?
5.
5.
5.
5?
Joseph, 4.
I guess it is.
Brody, 4. Kinsey, 7. Connor,
I can't
how? Abby, 2. Grace, this is the most you've ever missed on one of my tests. 4. Bailey, 7. Oh, Riley, I haven't graded yours. Or Chloe. Riley, I'll get it at the end and let you know. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to start the notes. Okay? Or at least look at, okay, if you look at this page 62, okay? Hi, Daniel. Yeah. Hey, man, you can take the test when you get back. You can come in the morning, 7:15, any morning. I'll be here, 7:10, 7:05, I'll be here. Or during mass, Not sure which community you are, but we got to match up our study halls on that. Okay.
Sounds good. I'll probably take it in the morning.
Okay, I'll be here. Hope you're negative.
Me too.
All right. Good luck.
Thank
All right,
you.
political parties. Okay, we're going to look at the functions and the reasoning why we're stuck in a two-party system. We're going to look at minor parties. We're going to look at the organization of the national parties, the state parties, and the local parties. We're going to look at the history of political parties, which there's a reading and 18 questions that you can answer for points. So you can start working on that whenever. Okay, I'll assign it at some point. Okay, good. All right. Voter qualifications, why people vote, why people don't vote. Voting behavior, polls, how they conduct opinion polls, and what makes a good poll and what makes a bad poll, and how do we recognize that? Okay. And then we're going to look at political advertising and propaganda. Okay. And the political advertising date, there's a really good website that I'll be using called The Living Room Candidate. And it basically traces presidential advertisements through since 52. 1952, we started to see televisions in people's homes, not in the 20s, people, in the 50s. Okay, and the first kind of famous television presidential ad was that I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Okay, and then all the way through, we'll look at some of the more powerful and effective ads in American history, okay? Which is kind of a fun day. That'll be the whole day we do that, okay? So, yeah, that's section 3. And the notes on this, I've got, well, actually, I got 3 pages of type notes. So we'll go through this. We'll do some today. We'll do some tomorrow. And then come back on Tuesday and get back with it and knock it out, okay? Good? All right, so let's start with a definition of political party, okay? Oh, you don't have your notes out yet? Section 3, political party. A group of persons who seek to control government. Group of persons who seek to control government in order to bring about the adoption of certain public policies or programs. Group of persons who seek to control government in order to bring about the adoption of certain public policies and programs. Public policies and programs. Public policy is all things government does. That's public policy. All right, so we're going to look at 5 functions of political parties. How many? 5 functions. Now, these end up making pretty good short answer questions, like name 2. Type of thing, right? Okay, so we'll start with number 1. 5 functions. The nominating function. Nominating function. So let's just go back to 2020 presidential election. Okay, Republicans. That's good. The Republicans had a candidate running for re-election. Okay, so there were a couple of guys for the Republicans that wanted to challenge Trump for the nomination, but they had no chance, right? With the Democrats, you had, I don't know, like 15 different people, right? You'll remember some of the names: Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, who? Andrew Yang, yeah. Okay, there were like 15. All right, now, this is what parties do. They weed out the bad candidates like, I mean, really, 2016 is a perfect example of both parties weeding out the bad candidates and letting the best candidates rise to the cream. You know, the cream rises to the top. Hillary and Trump.
That's a bad problem. It's really bad.
Well, 2020 is a pretty good example too. isn't it? Ah.
We're just great on
Right?
bad years.
I mean, you can laugh at this because it's true, right? I mean, I think everybody can see it. I don't know. All right. This is what sets them apart from, like, interest groups, like special interest groups, like the NRA or the AARP that we talked about, like with factions. They don't have political candidates. You know what I mean? Parties have candidates and they nominate one. Okay. And so for president, you got to have an official nomination. We do the same thing with candidates for Congress, right? So Republicans may have 3 or 4 people running for that seat. Democrats will have 3 or 4 people running for that seat, for governor or for Congress, right? And the parties choose the nominee. Okay. Now, how do we do that? We do that through primaries, primary elections, right? And caucuses. Primary and caucus. Okay. Now, Kansas uses the caucus. Okay. Most states use primary. Okay. And that's just like you go vote for one of the 15. Does that make sense? Have I explained to you what a caucus looks like before? I think like we have 105 counties, right? And they all meet in each county and have a meeting. That's a caucus, is a meeting. And in that county, they vote. And then whoever wins the most counties, that candidate wins. That makes sense? Okay. It's cheaper to do it that way than to hold like a statewide election. Okay. So that's what we use. And so that's how we choose our candidates. Okay. In primary elections. Now we use primaries too, especially for like congressional elections. Okay. Figure out who's going to be the nominee. All right. This helps expedite the election process. All right. The second function of a political party is the informative function. The informative, to inform voters, to educate voters, provide information. Now, I'm going to tip you off on something, okay? At the national level, you have what's called the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee. Libertarians have a national committee too, okay? All right, but these parties are the ones that used to be the ones that really would raise money and spend money on advertising, trying to educate and inform voters. But today we have the internet. Okay, so this is really becoming a less important function of the parties because of the internet. We can go find out whatever we want about whatever candidate by doing a Google search, right? So this is a function of parties, but it's less of a function than it used to be, okay? The third function of a political party is the appointment function. Appointment. Okay, let's say one of the Supreme Court justices pass away this week, okay? The Democratic National Committee is going to give Joe Biden a list of names. People that would be good to fill that seat on the Supreme Court, okay? When Ron Estes first became our representative, okay, so we live in Kansas. Okay, and we live in the 4th District of Kansas, okay? Mike Pompeo used to represent us in the House of Representatives, okay? So you've got 4 districts in Kansas. This is 1, this is 4, this is 2, this is 3. It's not a perfect map, but it's similar to that, okay? Each district has roughly the same number of people, about 758,000, each district, okay? When Pompeo became the director of the CIA under Trump, he left the House of Representatives, okay? Now, the Republicans controlled that seat. So the Republican Party chose somebody to fill his seat. Now, there was an election, the Democratic Party chose somebody to run for that seat too. So there was a special election, not on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. It's just, they said, all right, here's the date of the election. Each party comes up with a candidate. There was no primary. Follow me? So Republicans chose Ron Estes. They could have chosen Wink Hartman. They could have chosen me. Okay? And whatever Republican they chose was going to win. Right? And whatever person the Democrats nominated, they were going to lose. Okay? Because the 4th district is it's heavily Republican. Okay? Everybody follow me? So the political parties help fill presidential appointments. So like Biden's filling out his cabinet, right? So he needs a Secretary of State. He needs a Secretary of Treasury. He needs a Secretary of this and that. So the party is like, gives him a pool of people to choose from, to appoint to offices. Yes? And the party is, that's an important role of the party. Okay? The 4th function of political parties is the watchdog function. Watchdog function. The party out of power criticizes the party in power, watches them, makes sure they're doing their job right, right? Have you ever seen so many Republicans upset about the conditions of the people that are being detained at the border than you do right now? Right? When Trump was in office, the Democrats were throwing fits about kids in cages. I don't know if you remember this. Okay? The shoe's on the other foot now. Okay? And what's going down at the border is not good. It's like they are way overpopulated. They've got way too many people housed in these places. Okay? So the watchdog party, they're going to go after Biden just like the Democrats went after Trump. That's the watchdog function of the party. Okay? Try and keep them honest, right? Keep the other party honest. All right. Now, the 5th function of the political party is the practical function. The practical function. These two parties tend to keep the extremes from gaining power. It tends to keep the extreme wings of both parties out of power. Okay, Joe Biden's a perfect example, right? Okay, when you had these 15 Democrats, you had at least 2 that were avowed socialists, right? They'll tell you, I'm a socialist. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, okay? And during the primary of which candidate to choose, we know the young people that are excited about, feeling the burn, excited about these socialist candidates, free college and free health care and all those things, right? So there's a lot of energy with those people, right? And they're going to show up to vote in these primaries. But the leaders of the party know that if Bernie or Elizabeth become the nominee, the majority of Democrats, the majority of the American people are not quite ready for that. So they're like, we got to control the extreme wing of our party here. Okay, and so really, it was South Carolina was the wall. South Carolina saved Joe Biden. He was losing. He lost in New Hampshire. He lost in Iowa. I mean, he was coming in like 4th and 5th place, but he won South Carolina. Okay, and what really won him South Carolina was the African American vote, which is heavily Democratic in South Carolina, and they were told, get out and vote for Joe Biden. Okay, and he won, and it changed the entire trajectory of the election. Okay, so the practical function tends to keep extreme positions from getting into policy. Okay, helps working on compromises. So we need these political parties to kind of prevent us becoming too radical in one direction or the other. So it's kind of a practical function. Good? All right. Now, you ever heard anybody say, I wish there were more than two parties? I don't like these two parties. You know what I mean? I don't want to identify with these two parties. You know what I mean? Because I don't like either one of them, personally. You know what I mean? Now, I used to be like, I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican. I don't say that anymore. Okay, I don't like the Republican Party. I don't like the Democratic Party. Now, which one aligns more with me, right? That's what we're stuck with. You're stuck with which one aligns more with the way I think. You understand? Okay, because there's no third option. Why? Let me explain this to you guys. There's 4 reasons we're stuck in a two-party system. How many? 4. The first 2 are pretty simple. History. First one is history. We started with the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. We had 2. It's the way it is. We have 2. It's the way it's been ever since. History. The second is force of tradition. Force of tradition. Or inertia. You guys know the law of inertia. An object in motion will stay in motion unless. You guys see what's going on here? We got some science going on. This is cross-curricular learning in government class. Okay. Yes. Now, the system is self-reinforcing. Okay, and yes, sometimes there's discontent with these two parties. Yes, we get upset with our party. Okay, but usually that fades away. Okay, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now, some of us say it's broke, but how do we fix it? When you look at the next reason why we're stuck in this two-party system, and that is the electoral system, the third reason. How many electoral college votes does Kansas have? 6. Okay. We have 4 members of the House. We have 2 senators. We have 6 electoral college votes. Okay. Now, what's an electoral? Republican Party. Okay. Republican Party of Kansas and the Democratic Party of Kansas. We're gonna nominate 6 people to be electors. Democrats are gonna nominate 6 people to be electors. Libertarians are gonna nominate 6 people to be electors. When you go vote, you're actually voting for 6 Republicans or 6 Democrats or 6 Libertarians. Okay, you're not voting for the actual president and vice president. You're voting for those people. Now, if you win 51% of the popular vote in Kansas, you get all 6. So if the Republicans win 40%, Democrats win 30%, and Libertarians pick up 30%. Sorry. Okay? Like, they don't get 2, or they don't get 3, and they get 1 and 1, or whatever, 4, 1 and 1. You don't split them up. Follow me? It's winner take all. In 48 of the 50 states, it's winner take all. California, you win 51% of the popular vote, you get all 55 electors. Now, which 2 states? Nebraska and Maine. Okay, so like Nebraska it's got 5, right? Okay, so like this, they draw 5 districts. That's 4, 5. Okay, this one went to the Democrats. These are all Republicans. Yeah, I can't draw 5.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, you know what I mean? Maine has 4. Okay, so in that case, if you had a really strong Libertarian Party out here, they could win a electoral college vote. But in all the other states, you get 49, you're not going to get there. You're not going to win any electoral college votes. Follow me? Now, if you want to get on the ballot in Kansas as a Libertarian, a new party, let's say we come up with a new political party in this classroom in the state of Kansas, all right? We're going to call ourselves the Conservatarians. The Conservatarian Party, which is what I am. Okay? Now, we've got to get 50,000 signatures to get a candidate on the ballot. So go to work. We need 50,000 signatures, okay? Now, if you don't get 2% of the popular vote in that election, after you get your name on the ballot, you got to start over from scratch. So 4 years later, the Conservatarians want to run. They didn't get 2%. They got to get 50,000 signatures again. You get 2%, you automatically go on the ballot in the next election. Your party gets to choose a candidate. Does that make sense? So the Green Party had to do that, okay, in all these states that the Green Party candidates have run and so forth. You follow me? So the Green Party, Constitution Party, the Reform Party, others. Okay, but getting to 51% is brutally difficult. Okay. Now, in addition to that, not just winning electors in one state, in order to become president, you got to win 270 electoral college, which means you're going to have to do this nationally. That makes it very difficult for a third party to break in. Besides, who's going to waste their vote on a third party? When they know they have no chance of winning. If you look at the top of page 63, The Constitution Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Natural Law Party, and the Reform Party has had candidate in enough states to win 270 electoral college votes. Okay? In recent history. So they were on the ballot in enough states. They may not have been in all 50 states, but enough states to get 270. You follow me? Okay? But if you look at these elections, guys, and this is a great map. Okay? You've got all these elections dating back to 1900. Okay? In 1912, you had Democrat Woodrow Wilson running against Theodore Roosevelt, who was running under, what was the name of his party? Bull Moose, right? The Bull Moose Party, you guys remember hearing about that?
But I think it like didn't win the party election, so it was made a new.
Yeah. That's called a splinter party, which we'll talk about, okay? And then Taft, the Republican, got 8 electoral college votes. So Theodore Roosevelt got 88 with his own party. That's the closest we've ever seen with the third party. Okay. Then we come up here, Robert La Follette. You might remember the Progressive Party of La Follette. You probably didn't learn this in history last year because we were on the lockdown. But he was a Progressive Party. He got 13 electoral college votes. Okay. Then we come over here. 1956, this guy, no party affiliation, Walter B. Jones got 1 electoral college vote. John Hoppers, a libertarian, in 1972, got 1. Now, guys, this is because probably one of the electors that was a Democrat or Republican switched their votes. Not that he actually earned the votes. You know what I mean? Because electors can change their vote. Those 6 Republicans or 6 Democrats, there's nothing that forces them to vote with their party. That's why you're careful about who you choose to be your elector. Okay. Now, 1968, George Wallace, the American Independent Party. This is segregationist party. Governor Wallace, okay, and he won 1, 2, 3, 4 states. Okay, he was the governor of Alabama. All right, and he was a Democrat that split from the Democratic Party. Okay, and Nixon won that election, the Republican, Humphrey, by fairly large margin electorally, but popular vote was within 500,000. Okay, Ronald Reagan got 1 electoral college vote in 1976, but that wasn't because of votes. Okay, and Lloyd Bentsen in 1988 got 1. That wasn't because of votes. That was just an elector voting for them. Okay? So you just don't see it. All right? We're kind of stuck in this 2-party system. So what you have to do, guys, is you have to change your own party. If you don't like the direction your party's going in or the one you align with, then you have to change the party. Okay? Now, is there become a point where people are so sick and tired, okay, of these 2 parties that we get a strong third party? Well, in 1992, there was a candidate named Ross Perot. Any guys heard of this guy? This is an election between George Herbert Walker Bush, the father, who's running for re-election, Bill Clinton, the Democrat, and this billionaire businessman from Texas named Ross Perot, who created the Reform Party. Ross Perot would go on CNN Larry King Live at least once a week. It was like CNN was the only cable news show at the time, okay? And Larry King had the 7 o'clock slot. He's a former radio guy. Okay, he just passed away. He's a great talk show host, Larry King was. Okay, but he loved Ross Perot. So he had this guy on his show all the time. And he had this really high-pitched voice. He'd say, now, Larry, listen, these Republicans and these Democrats, they got it all wrong. We're going to fix this country. Okay? And he'd bring charts and graphs, and he'd explain all this stuff to people like, I like Ross Perot. I'm going to vote for that guy. He got 19% of the popular vote in 92. You know how many electors he won? 0. Okay. Now, there was a gubernatorial candidate in Minnesota that ran under the same party, the Reform Party, and won. So the Reform Party did elect a governor. The former WWE wrestler, Jesse the Body Ventura, became the governor of Minnesota. Okay. Look that guy up. I'm sure he's got a book if you want to read it. Okay. Yeah.
So why would parties start by like going for the presidency? Like the presidency is sort of like the first place.
Right.
Why don't they start like locally and then like
Right.
work their way up?
Well, look at the list of local parties on your sheet there on 63.
A
What
marijuana
even
party.
is that?
This Spartacus party.
Okay.
New party.
New party.
Okay, so we'll talk about these different types of minor parties, like the libertarians and so forth.
Grassroots party.
We'll get into minor parties tomorrow, okay? Hey, real quick, just reinforcing what I said, this is kind of the fourth thing where you have, remember in our European parliamentary systems, you need a plurality. In our system, you need a what? Majority. Okay? So you can have lots of different parties in parliamentary systems. But in a presidential system like ours, you got to get a majority.
Yeah, in Germany, isn't there like, yeah, but Germany.
Yeah, there's a bunch.